Ladies and gentlemen.
I can't really heard what Jeremy says because I got my 2 Stanley Cup rings plugged in my ear.
Introduce.
This is a guy that's going to be traded, though.
You're an announcer with a long stick from time to time.
You think it's my fault? Is that what you're saying? This guy's such an idiot here.
The Puck Luck Fantasy Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Puck Luck Fantasy Podcast. I'm your host, Derek Sudemans, and today I'll be breaking down the 2 games on DraftKings. Make sure you check out our website, puckluckfantasy.com. We have some skater and stack rankings, some goalie rankings, lots of great tools to help you build your lineups. It's all free till the end of the season, so why not check it out? And while you're there, throw in your email so we can keep you updated, as well as you'll be eligible for a discount on a subscription next season. Make sure you follow us on Twitter, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and follow us on your favorite podcasting platform. All right, so let's jump into the first game of the day today. So we have a game between the Penguins and the Capitals, and we're expecting Matt Murray will be going up against Braden Holtby. Now, this is one of the nights where there's also not a lot of separation in terms of goalies from the best to the worst. Really, it's a little bit deceiving even if you look at it, because we have Hellebuyck, who's quite a bit more valuable than everyone else, but that's just because of the amount of shots he's expected to see. So he's definitely a tournament play today. But in terms of the other goalies, they're all almost essentially the same value. So really, after Hellebuyck, I'm going to be going to Pekka Rinne for cash, even though technically he is rated as the worst goalie today. He's definitely still your best cash option because he's essentially the same as the other 2 goalies right there, and he's got a bigger win score, which is kind of what I like to focus on more heavily for cash especially. But definitely, if you're going to be playing tournaments, I really like Connor Hellebuyck today in terms of goalies. And then the other 2 that are in this game, they're both essentially the exact same. They have they're pretty close to the same win score. You're going to see roughly the same amount of shots. They're the same salary and the same value. So really, you can just kind of plug and play with those goalies. I wouldn't really use them for cash. I would stick to Rinne. But for tournaments, you can play any of the goalies today, which is really nice because then you can be nice and creative. All right, so let's move on to the stacks from this game. So there are going to be a couple of stacks that we can play. I won't be focusing super heavy on this game, but there's definitely a couple that caught my eye. The main one being the top line for the Capitals. Now, they moved Devante Smith-Pelly up to the top line after Wilson got the suspension. So we will have to make sure that they're keeping that line intact. But if they do, they are going to be the top line from these 2 from this game. And it is kind of nice that Smith-Pelly had such a poor performance the first night, because that should push a lot of the ownership way down on that line. After a poor performance, people tend to really get off of a line. So it's a good night to sort of get in and get a piece of them. They're not my favorite line, but definitely with the lower ownership, I'm going to be wanting to get a few of them tonight. Now, having Smith-Pelly up on that line does actually drag the whole line down a bit in value. So a lot of the times when you have sort of these weaker players come up, you might assume that the entire value of the line would come up because of just the ridiculously low price on that the weaker player. But a lot of times the pull up that he gets is it's counterbalanced by as much as it pulls down the other guys on the line. So a lot of the times they'll actually drop as a result, and that's what we saw today. It's not a huge drop with the difference between Wilson and Smith-Pelly, but it's definitely there. But just so you're aware of, that's how sort of in general how that can work. So don't get confused if you see a cheap guy going up. He definitely becomes a lot more valuable, but it really sinks the value of the other 2 players. All right, now as usual, if you're going to be playing the top line of the Washington Capitals, you can pair John Carlson with them. He's really the only defenseman that I would go after from this game. And then really the only other line that I would even consider from this game is the Gensel, Hornqvist, and Crosby line. Even though they're at that ridiculous price tag, they're sort of like mid-range in terms of value for today. So once again, they're going to be getting very high owned. So I'm probably not going to be having very much of them at all. I'll be fading them, hoping that they will just go dry for one of these games, because that's what you need for a tournament, because that'll knock out a lot of people, and then you really can differentiate yourself. So I might get a piece of them, and then you can play Letang with them. He's nice and high today. He's really and then Mata we kind of like still, but not really. He's always a bubble play, especially in the playoffs when he's not seeing as much power play time as he usually does. That's sort of been it's been going between Schultz and Letang, but the main defenseman would be to pair up Letang, and that gives you a decent stack from this game. But like I said, there's really not a whole lot that I like from this game. The value is really in the other game, where I'll be focusing much more heavily today. So with that being said, I will move on to the next game, which is between the Jets and the Predators. So for this game, there are a lot of options that you can play. So like I mentioned at the beginning, either goalie is usable. I'm going to be going to Hellebuck, mostly for my tournament play, and then for cash, I'm going to be going to Rinne. So it's nice. You get to sort of hedge your bets tonight if you're playing both. So either your tournaments will do okay, or your cash should do okay. Usually, unless somehow they manage to both not do okay, which does happen, but you should be, it's nice to get that hedging going on, so you don't really come up with a completely dry on any particular night. With that being said, with the goalies, we'll move to the stacks. There's a lot that I'm going to be targeting. The main one being the second line for the Jets today, with Patrick Laine, Nikolai Ehlers, and Paul Stastny. So really, they're the only line that are significantly more valuable than everyone else. So what I'm going to be doing is just getting a ton of them and basically just pairing them and making as many combinations that fit with that line. They're all very valuable individually, particularly Ehlers. He's right up there, but even Laine, for the price tag he has, he's very valuable. I think he's only at 6.2K now, so that's really cheap for him. So he's been a little cold recently, but that's what happens to your price. And then, so we got to cash in right now while he is cold, and then hopefully he'll heat up, and we can take advantage of that low salary with that. So that's the main line I'll be playing. You can definitely pair Bufflin with them. I was looking, Trouba's not on their second power play anymore. It looks like they're going with Tyler Myers. So you could actually throw Myers with them as well. He gets the correlation with Ehlers, I believe they're on their second unit. So that would definitely be a sneakier play if you're trying to differentiate a little bit. But I don't think they'll be super high owned anyways tonight. They'll definitely be a little bit owned, but not as crazy as some of these other lines. Like particularly, I'm expecting the Penguins top line to be the top owned one of the night. In terms of the other lines from this game, we do like the second line now with Turris, Smith, and Scott Hartnell. It's not as valuable since it's now got Scott Hartnell, so this is the same sort of situation that we saw with Smith Pelly. It does pull down their value, but we still like them as a line. They're a little cheap, so it might be hard to work them in, but I still do like the top line from the Predators, so I would definitely give them the edge over the second line tonight. The only problem is I like to get Roman Josi in there if I can, and you can't really pair him with their top line. PK Subban was a lot better with them. So if you're going with, you can do Turris, Smith, and Hartnell and Josi if you're going that way. You might even want to just do the mini stack of doing Turris and Smith and Josi. That could work, and that'd be a way to get around that. I'm not a big fan of Hartnell, but it is what it is. If they're going to play him over Fiala, then we just got to make do with that. Other than that, those are really the only main plays. There's those two top lines for the Nashville Predators, and then the defenseman I mentioned. And I also want to just mention quickly that Ryan Ellis is definitely playable at 4.5K, and he is with Josi. So he could do, he's as well, he correlates the best with the top line from the Predators. So if you're using him and you want to pair him with a line, that's the one to do it with. All right, so that will actually wrap things up from this game. I'm going to move on now to the Puck Luck picks of the day. So this is where I give you the best value picks from 4 different tiers of pricing. I'm going to give you a really expensive pick, so that will be Patrick Laine today. He's at 6.2K, which is really cheap for him. I like Victor Arvidsson at 5.4K in sort of that medium to expensive tier. I like Nick Ehlers at 4.6K in sort of the medium to cheap tier. And then for a really cheap pick today, I like Derek Brassard, dropped all the way down to 3.5K for today. In terms of my top stack of the night, I'm going to be going with the Line 8 Ehlers and Stasny line. And then in terms of a mini stack of the day, I'm going to go with Roman Josi and Kyle Turris. All right, and that will wrap things up for today. I'm just going to remind you, make sure you check out our website, puckluckfantasy.com. We have lots of cool stuff on there for building your lineups, and there's a lot more that will be coming shortly. We're working on a lot of cool stuff. You'll see a lot of updates over the summer especially, so make sure you're keeping updated and check back from time to time to see what's new. We always have new tools that are coming available on there, so make sure you throw in your email so we can update you and you can be eligible for that discount next season. Just going to remind you once again, follow us on Twitter, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and find us on your favorite podcasting platform. That'll wrap things up for today. Have a good day, and I'll see you tomorrow.